Hello, welcome to another Burgundy with Tweedy video. This was a last minute wine purchase. I was a little bit in two minds for a couple of reasons. First of all, for some reason, something about the purple label here. I had this vague idea in my mind that this producer, Frederic Magnien, yet another Magnien, have we featured perhaps 3 different Magniens? I'm sure they're all related. I remember vaguely a bottle with this sort of packaging having a synthetic closure. So I actually asked in the shop, I said I was going to buy it either way, but I actually asked in the shop if they'd just cut the foil off so I could check inside. And it is in fact a proper traditional cork closure. So that's good news. That's a good start. It's a Cote de Nuits village. So it's from one of those, are there 5 or 7, I forget the number, villages, either at the very top of the Cote de Nuits or at the very bottom of the Cote de Nuits that don't have appellations of their own as villages. I believe the village in question here is Brochon, and the particular lieu dit, the particular vineyard site, is called Croix Violette. Violet Cross, I assume. And pleasingly, on the back they even have a little vineyard map. It doesn't actually say it's Brochon. I don't think it mentions Brochon on there. Brochon, I believe, is immediately to the north of Gevrey-Chambertin. It's just sort of sandwiched in there between Gevrey-Chambertin and Fizan. So this is very, very close to being a Gevrey-Chambertin, but just outside of that appellation, and it falls into the Cote de Nuits village, and I don't think Brochon has its own appellation. It comes under Cote de Nuits village. 2021 vintage. Obviously, I'd rather it were a bit older than that, but it's quite possibly fine. I've had 1 or 2 decent 2021s so far, and there does seem to be a very unscientific pattern emerging that from the last 5 to 10 years, the even-numbered vintages are generally not quite so much to my taste, and the odd-numbered vintages generally do well. So I've really liked 2017, I've enjoyed 2019 very much as well, and I'm hoping, it's early to tell yet, but 2021 could be shaping up to be the next 2019, possibly, who knows. It does seem to be the case that you have these quite warm years on the even years in the last few years. So 2018 was warm, 2020 was warm, I think 2022 was relatively warm, and then in between you get these slightly more cooler, elegant vintages. So it was good to check that this has this non-synthetic closure, because as we've found in the past with the synthetic closures, wine prongs don't really work very well. Interesting for a not particularly old wine, there's been a fair amount of bleeding on the cork. I don't know if that's showing up there. It's sort of a good third of the way up the cork. The wine has penetrated. You don't normally see that on a relatively young bottle like this, and you certainly wouldn't see that with a synthetic cork, of course. What do we think about the colour there? Sort of in the middle somewhere, not particularly pale, not particularly dark, relatively opaque. I don't know, I'm getting a bit of translucency there, but not the sort of brightest, clearest of sort of slightly opaque kind of colour. First nose before any swirling, a little bit closed and a little bit shy, I would say. If I'm getting any fruit character there at all, it's something a little bit restrained and severe, like cranberry or red currants. And there is possibly at this stage a very faintest whiff of that kind of struck match thing, which I feel like I'm finding all over the place recently. It might not be quite that, perhaps sort of something more slightly woody or even sandpapery. Okay, let's give that a bit of air to see if we can improve that fruit character. Still not abundantly fruity on the nose there. Maybe veering into more red berry fruits. I think that initial slight suggestion of red currant and cranberry, I don't know, is that possibly going a little bit raspberry, red currant? Did I already say red currant? Not a huge amount on the nose, and again some slightly woody notes I think there. Fruit wise, yeah, not really a lot. I think I might be getting a slight hint of something floral though, maybe a little bit of rose hip. That's slightly more sort of natural, less refined, less fragrant, less perfumey version of rose, with a little bit more, I don't know, undergrowth or something in it. Okay. Okay. On the palate, sort of soft. There is a little bit of tannin there. Getting some sort of fruit character, but it's a little bit subtle again. I suppose we're in the realm of kind of berry fruits. Possibly a hint of sort of subtle plum sort of fruit character. It's relatively dry, relatively savoury, I would say, and that then runs into those tannins. It's not overwhelmingly tannic, but I'm definitely noticing that, and perhaps more so because I'm not really getting an abundance of fruit. Yeah, I would not call this a huge success, but that is often the case with these last-minute wine purchases. Some floral notes here are trying to get out, and somehow I would really hope, given a name like Croix Violette, that there's going to be a bit of violet in here, but it's not. It's not that. If anything, it's in the kind of rose sort of area, but it's struggling a little bit. It's sort of potpourri at best. Certainly not a kind of, fresh rose petal. It's got something a bit more sort of dry and severe and austere in there, and that floral character. Maybe getting a little touch of something like green pepper there as well. I think somebody commented on this recently, and I've perhaps picked it up without acknowledging it, but I think that is a good point. I think that is often a sign of a slightly ready wine, a wine that isn't ready yet, that's too young. Different wines seem to age at different rates, so I wouldn't say that you should write off all 2021s, but perhaps this is something that would be better a couple of years from now. I mean, it's certainly not a very grand appellation that you would expect to be designed to be aged for a long period of time, but this could well be something that just needs a little bit more time to open up or develop. At the moment, all a little bit kind of severe and edgy and savoury on the palate, not a lot of fruit, buds of flowers trying to open up and do their job, but being held back a little bit woody, bit tannic. This might be something that somehow magically improves with glass number 2, so if that is the case, then I will come back in a bit and provide some supplementary notes. Yeah, not really for me, I'm afraid, that one, but oh well, can't win them all. Cheers.